Welcome to the UNSECURITY podcast. Each week, Evan and Brad give an inside look at current information security news, breaches, best practices, and other things you should know to improve your information security. Here are your hosts, FRSecure's Evan Francine and Brad Nye.
Hi again, UNSECURITY podcast listeners. My name is Evan Francine, and this is episode 69. The date is March 2nd, 2020. Joining me in studio is my co-host, Brad Nye. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Evan.
How are you?
I'm good.
Rumor has it you've been working on some IR stuff.
Yeah, we had another one come in kind of midweek last week. It's a mess.
All right, we're going to talk about that. It's been good. It is great to be back in the office. I was at RSA last week, and I'm not an extrovert.
That probably drains you, that many people.
I was in bed every night at like 9 o'clock while the rest of our team was out doing things. But we have a really good show this week. And like normal, we're going to talk about, we had our blue screen of death last week on your laptop. This week we'll get back to that, but before we do that, I would like to catch up because here we are. We're sitting face to face, looking at each other, looking deep into each other's eyes. That's not weird.
It's too early for that.
All right. So tell me about your IR. What can you share? Don't share names.
No. I think the biggest thing to take away is don't just trust what your MSP is telling you. Verify. So things like syslogging and any sort of logging on the rules themselves is, or more than, 10 or 15 minutes worth of logs.
So how often do we run into MSPs? It seems like it's fairly common for an MSP to get something set up for a client and then not secure it well.
Yeah.
That's sort of what happened here, right?
Yep. That's what it looks like. And, they're trusting their MSP to do the right thing.
Which you should be able to trust your MSP, right?
Right.
Shouldn't you?
Yeah.
Shouldn't they be able to do things securely?
I would hope so.
Now, we've talked to this MSP before. I know who it is, and you know who it is. And we've tried to coach them into not making these same mistakes over and over and again, but they're doing it again. At some point, there's going to be a lawsuit, is my guess. Are we getting close to sharing the name here?
No, probably not yet.
Okay. Probably
should run that through legal.
True. All right. So you've been working on, did you work this weekend on that?
Luckily it was, how do I put this? From our standpoint, from what we could do, it was actually relatively clean environment. The reason is that they have no servers. The attackers got in, deleted their backups, and deleted all their snapshots off of their production SAN and both remote backup DR SANs, and then encrypted their VMware environment.
But they have no servers?
Yeah, everything was VM. So they don't have any way. There's nothing to restore.
Okay.
So
what do you do now?
They sent one of the SANs for forensics to try and recover images off of the disk. Otherwise, they're looking at backup from tape from like 2 years ago.
All right. So this company,
there was a lot of things that
might have to back up data from 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to put them out of business?
I don't know. They have insurance, so
oh my gosh.
Hopefully they make it through. But yeah, we got it. We got tools on the workstations and any servers they were able to bring up. They're about 10% of their servers are up.
How many employees? How many workstations?
About 250.
Oh, so a pretty significant sized organization.
Yeah.
Dead in the water still?
200-ish servers, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, good.
So,
not good.
Air gap backups. Don't use the same domain credentials for everything.
Wait a second. You're supposed to back up your data?
Right.
I've never been told that before.
They were backing it up. They just didn't it wasn't air gapped. It was using the same credentials. And then
Now, not air gapping the backup. Is that the MSP's issue too?
that I don't know.
All right.
But
So I know this MSP.
yeah, I don't know about that, how that was all set up. But then the storage vendor was able to show definitively the command to delete all the snapshots came from the backup server logged into the storage as an admin level.
So many things wrong with this.
It's a mess.
So no backup. I mean, you might as well not have a backup. So you can say, well, we backed up our data, but okay, you didn't protect your backup. So
yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. If they'd lost a file or something, yeah, that would have been not a big deal. But they lost the raw data is gone.
And I know this MSP, and I know that I've argued with them before about testing backups as being part of their service and gotten pushback on that before too.
Well, they may have tested the backups, but again.
True. But they don't even do that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they changed. All right. Well, that good, not good.
Yeah. No, it's I would say, and I do feel, I feel for the IT staff.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear the stress.
Sure.
Because, right. Hey, we're paying this company to do these things. And when they found out, there was basically functionally no logging on their firewalls.
All right.
It's like, I can't tell you anything. What do you want me to do? There's no, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to be back. I'm glad I'm not dealing with that because it is stressful, even as an incident responder, even if you can't do anything, and you're sort of, the things you can do, you still feel the stress of the people you're working with, right? Your heart goes out to them.
You're looking for anything too, right? And then, you get nothing showing up. You're like, what am I missing? Because there was an attack.
Right. Well, I'm behind on everything. Many emails behind. I don't even know if I turned off my out of office yet. But I'm hoping that this will be a good catch up week. Next week, did you know that I won't be here on Monday morning? You want to do it with Cola?
Sure.
Cola.
He loves coming in early.
He loves coming in early and he likes to talk. So it's perfect. So the reason why I'm behind, spent a good week out at RSA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about RSA. I always do. Have you been to RSA before?
Nope.
Okay.
Can you sense the disappointment?
Do you want to go to RSA?
Not particularly.
All right. This year, I guess attendance was down a little bit. 45,000 estimated last year, 36 this year. It's a zoo.
Yeah.
There's so many people. I'm an introvert, so being there is just exhausting. Monday, so we had 7 people there from Security Studio. We had a booth. We gave away 1,000 books. It was cool. Every book was signed by me, and what I signed it was Mission Before Money, and then RSA 2020, and then my signature.
How many times did your hand cramp up signing that many times?
I was surprised. My hand didn't cramp up, and I only screwed up on 2 books.
Wow.
One book, the guy said his name was Rob, and I wrote Rod. I was like, son of a. And then another one was, I don't know, some name there's a lot of different names there. But it was good. Security Studio, it was well worth our time. We were certainly the counterculture, which was really kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, because, literally the money grab. You saw some pictures that I sent. One was like dollar bills hanging from a fishing line, and watching people try to get those dollar bills was just like, are you kidding me? You're really doing that?
Yeah, that's uncomfortable.
It really is. And met some great people along the way. You can check the show notes for some of the people that I met. So everything was generally pretty cool. We only had, I had emailed our PR team Wednesday, just telling them what messages seemed to be resonating. And they were asking, in our industry, sometimes when you are counterculture, there's some pushback. And so when people would ask us, what we do, really it's simplify information security for the underserved markets, meaning, small to medium-sized business, K through 12, higher education, state and local government, and people, right? Those are all underserved markets where there aren't good, solid, fundamental, simple tools to use. And so, that's what we focus on. Universally, the reception was really, really good. People people were open to it, liked it.
I think it seems like you have two types of people. One that are living that life and are like, oh, thank goodness. Or the others that are, in those big Fortune 500 type companies that are like, yeah, I can see that, but that's not for me. I don't, whatever.
Right. We'll stick with RSA or Archer.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was funny because, there were, I don't know how many vendors there were there. The trade show floor is massive. I mean, it's huge. And I think maybe 90%, 95% of everybody who's there as a vendor is fighting over the 10% who are already doing security.
Right.
So we're this
because they have a known budget. They know they have money.
Well, they're all fighting over that.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
It's easier.
That's why. Yeah.
So the underserved market wasn't really well represented there. So that kind of helped us stand out. But it was good. We had 961 leads.
Very cool.
Yeah, that came from that. I think we'll probably get 10 to 20 partners out of this because Security Studio is all about partnering with other security companies to serve these underserved markets.
Right.
So, yeah, overall, I think it was really, really good.
Very cool.
I don't know what expectations were, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of RSA just because it kills me every time.
I mean, if you get some more people on board for the mission, then
yes, that's what it's all worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it at that point.
We had 7 people in a minivan.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool. I felt like Dad. And there was all kinds of stories. I can't think of anything right now because I'm still trying to process everything that happened that week. But yeah, good stuff. So last week we also had a nice visit from the blue screen of death, Jamie. Yeah,
it was a graphic driver issue. I did figure that out. It was
a graphic driver issue?
Yeah, it caused it updated and.
But you're using a Surface.
Yeah. So
Microsoft.
So
Surface.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
I was having major performance issues.
Yeah.
And tracked it down to the Microsoft driver from December of 2018. That's the last official driver. So I'd updated it to one, I don't know, September, October, and had no issues. I got an update and it rolled back to that old driver and something did it. I fixed the driver and I've had no issues since. So.
All right.
Yay.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's probably a good thing though, because we were talking a while. We had Ryan, me and Ryan were in the car.
Right.
It was 4 a.m. 5 a.m. 4 a.m. We got up at 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're
sitting still way too early.
Yeah. We're sitting in the parking lot or not parking lot, the driveway. So we didn't wake up all the rest of the team members in the house. We had a house.
It's cool.
Yeah, it was all right. So anyway, but we were running late anyway. We've been talking about this thing called information security roles and responsibilities. I know it's not the most exciting thing for people to talk about, but it's absolutely critical.
I think not enough people do talk about it too. So
we started in part 1. We were originally doing 2 parts. Part 1 was macro level. So what role does government play? What role does schools play? Then last week we talked about at a micro level, but we talked about at work.
Right.
Now this week, we're going to talk about at home. Now you and I, I think we're very security conscious at home, so this will be a good discussion. So we originally planned for 2 episodes. Instead, we broke it into 3. Not a big deal. This will be sort of fun.
Yeah.
So, all right. So quick recap of roles and responsibilities at work. Do you remember last week?
No. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, you have your high level, the C level, what are they supposed to be doing? Setting that guidance and setting the tone and handing out accountability. Then you have your CISO who's going to be taking those risks, making recommendations, and then to the executives, and then going back and implementing what action is decided on. Mm-hmm. Legal being lawyers are lawyers.
Right.
I don't know what else to say.
They read stuff.
Yeah. They sign off on things, keep you out of trouble as best they can.
Try to run up the billable rate.
Right. And then you have employees who should be understanding not necessarily all the things in a policy, but who to go to if they have a question, what types of things should they be aware of. Higher level, if you click on something, go let someone know, So, 30-second recap there.
Yeah, I like it. All right. So if you didn't listen to, or if you didn't catch that podcast, I think there was a lot of good advice.
Yeah.
In that podcast, it was really early in the morning on Tuesday, and that was after the first day of RSA. So I honestly don't remember a ton of it.
No, I thought it was really good.
But I think we talked.
It was a good conversation.
All right. So this time we're going to talk about roles and responsibilities at home, which is really kind of interesting because, I've always used the, I call them normal people, mm-hmm. right? Most people are normal people.
Right.
We're security people. We're not normal.
No.
So 850,000-ish of us and 330 million normal people.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is when we talk about roles and responsibilities at home, talk about it as much as we can in normal people words. You know what I mean? Not try to get all technical. People are creatures of habit. So we know that if we teach good habits, if we can get people to build good habits, they'll take it with them wherever they go, including at work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that we did, I started writing a second book and then I stopped it. And then now I'm writing this book with you and Ryan. I did a study where I asked 1,000 people, normal people, to tell me stuff about security. And the only open-ended question in that whole study was, what can information security people do to make your life better?
Yeah.
Right. And then we did that word map, and you've seen that image. The word simplify or simple stood out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
They want us to make it simple, which is awesome because that's how the best security is simple.
Right.
Right. Bruce Schneier said it in the 90s, the complexity is the enemy.
Right. It's easy to fall down that trap.
Right. Well, nowadays, if you look at home, and it's happened so quickly, it wasn't that long ago when I didn't have smart TVs.
Right.
It wasn't that long ago when I didn't have smart refrigerators and smart dishwashers. And maybe I had Wi-Fi, but I probably had a desktop computer sitting in the kitchen. I didn't have laptops. I didn't have iPads. I didn't have iPhones. I didn't have all this other crap. And I didn't have IoT. Mm-hmm. I didn't have all these things. So if you talk about simple, it's not simple. Mm-mm. Right? Because as people keep adding more complexity into their lives, they make it harder and harder to secure it.
Yep. Yeah. And it's funny because you get all the marketing push, and now, even if they don't want to add complexity, mm-hmm. you go try and find appliances that aren't Bluetooth or Wi-Fi enabled.
Right. You can't buy a TV anymore without smartness.
Right. Now, you don't have to connect it to anything, and you probably shouldn't, but
people will. They want to have their Netflix. They want to have their Hulu. Yeah. They want to have their YouTube.
And,
So at what point? So it's really challenging because when I talk to people about, security at home, they don't realize that all these devices, anything that's got any code behind it, which is anything, mm-hmm. requires patches. Mm-hmm. Right? There's going to be bugs in your software. I don't care if it's 50 lines of code that makes this thing work.
Right. It's just human nature.
Well,
right.
I need to patch these things, but do people know?
Well, and
what's the people patch their?
What's the delivery mechanism for the manufacturer to push it out? Right. Like, why are we forcing an end user to do this if it's always connected anyway? Right.
So people typically, because you and I have been in IT for a long time too, you make it go, you keep tinkering with it until it works. And then once it works, you're like, all right, don't touch it again.
Right.
It's working. Well, but you didn't change the default username and password. You didn't turn on some of the security features. You didn't patch it. You didn't do all these things.
It runs as local admin.
Right. So to keep things simple, if I didn't have all these devices, it would be a lot easier for me to secure things. Mm-hmm. At what point? I mean, the challenge is every time I add something new, I have to build security into it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like segmenting Wi-Fi networks, so that when your friends come over, you can give them their guest network and keep the rest of your network secure.
Right.
People don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess, it's daunting. It's scary. It's, they don't understand it, and there's no real good tutorials that are easy to understand. I've been asked doing the parent presentations at schools. People have straight up asked about that type of thing.
Right.
What do you guys offer where you could teach us how to set this stuff up? I want to do it. There's just nothing about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the manufacturers, they say they care, but they don't care.
No,
I mean, if you did care, then you'd make this more secure out of the box for people. So start here. So assume that you had nothing, like I had no network at home whatsoever. The very first thing I have is maybe my Wi-Fi, or maybe it's the cable modem or whatever.
Yeah, probably your cable modem with Wi-Fi built in.
Right. So then start there. Mm-hmm. Right. Don't worry about the TV and the IoT and your iPads and all the other crap. Just start with that. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the basic first thing that's really connecting you.
Right.
And I'm not talking physical security either. That's a whole nother can of worms that we can go down.
Just to the internet.
Yeah. Start simple. Start with number one, first thing, that cable modem or that DSL router that you got from, your provider.
Whoever. Yep.
Is that secure? Hopefully there's a manual somewhere, or maybe you can call,
right.
Maybe you can call, your ISP and say, hey,
well, and that's the
show
thing.
Me the secure settings
with that, they lock it down a fair amount, right? And then,
well, some of them do.
Or, I mean, what you as the end user can get to.
Right.
Right. You have a limited interface.
Sure.
So you can't necessarily, you can change your password you log in with or some of those settings, but you don't have a lot of control.
And I know I can do everything on mine, because I've been in mine and I've secured mine. And it was interesting to find out that my provider, who is my provider? The hell, they're CenturyLink. CenturyLink also maintains backdoor access to my router. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I knew that.
And there's no way to turn it off.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
No. So, but start there, right? So that's number one. And then, if Wi-Fi is built into that thing, maybe do a little bit of research. Maybe Google that model number of whatever device it is and see, or enlist a friend. Don't call me or you because we're busy or stuff. But, try to figure out, how do I segment a network? What does segmenting a network even mean? Mm-hmm. Can I put all my stuff on, a secure network and then put, even before we segment it more and put IoT on its own network segment and then put your other stuff on, But I mean, I think you have to start there, just the basics, because at some point you have to catch up. Yeah. Right. If you just keep adding more and more and more and more stuff, you're never going to get there.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not that hard to do.
Right.
Most of these, it is click and say, create a new one. What do you want to call it? Guest. Don't let them talk to each other. And then don't give your internal one to the guests.
Right. Yeah. And then, once you sort of got your network sort of figured out, then figure out the security of the things that you put on that network, right? So my TV. Okay, I want to have Netflix. All right, well then how would you secure that? Is the TV have patches? Yes, it does. How would I apply patches to my TV?
Right. And, you can really quickly go down that complexity this sort of time. Well, you should have, are you trusting that cable modem as your firewall?
Right.
Is that your protection against the internet? Should you have something between your devices and the internet besides what the provider is giving you?
Well, and when you realize that security, the way it works the best is just, as you add more stuff, it does become more complex, or it's just a lot more simple. A lot more simple things added together. It looks really complex, but really when you break it down into its components, it's just a bunch of simple.
Yeah.
But you have to start with your network first, right? Or start with that cable modem first, and then go to the next thing, and then go to the next thing.
I guess, that's the big thing is it doesn't matter what you put behind it if you've left default passwords that are searchable on the internet to get in.
Right. Because the sad thing is at home, and people, I know a lot of people are, well, it's too complex for me. I will never understand it. That's all kind of crap. It's well worth the time, the investment of time to figure out the basics and how to secure some of your devices and secure the things on your network. We're in this, you and I we're a little bit older. So we are, what do you call that? Network. Oh man. It's like, we didn't grow up with this.
Oh,
not natives.
Right.
We're
immigrants, digital immigrants.
Digital immigrants, not digital natives. So it took a little more work, right, for us to learn these things. Because the fact of the matter is, if you don't take care of it, your safety is at risk.
Right.
Right. Because information security, privacy, and safety can't be disconnected anymore.
Right.
Because now I've got network devices that control the physical security of my house.
Right.
I've got, smart homes where I can turn on and off lights and heat and.
Right. Yeah. It's, alarm systems and doors and
now kids are going to bed. Kids go to bed with devices, and not, I'm sure not Johnny, not Susie, they're not
until it is
right. I'm sure they're not going to any place that they shouldn't be going to. And I'm sure that they're not being preyed upon, but everybody else's kids are.
Right. Right.
So you just, at some point as a parent, you have to sort of wake up and take ownership.
I don't think it's the same as it would be for, like you said, in the physical world, air quotes, right? You have to set boundaries. You have to set expectations. You have to understand, hey, if you go to the mall at night and doing these things, there's a risk. Right. Same thing here. Or if you go to these areas or whatever, here are the things you look for. Parents do that, or usually, more often do that. They don't understand, or they like, yeah, it's an iPad, or it's their phone. What could they do?
Right. Well, and ignorance is, in this case, is very, very dangerous because it does have such a direct safety correlation at home.
Yeah. And, it's a good, to me, is it willful ignorance, or is it just truly not realizing the risk?
Right.
Or do you know there's a risk and just, they wouldn't be my kid.
Well, that's why it's well spent time to learn these things, to learn the basics. Because honestly, nobody gives a crap about your security or your safety more than you should.
Yeah.
If you're counting on your MSP, for your backups
right
at work, and they get paid a lot. I mean, if you're expecting your ISP to protect you, if you're, expecting Samsung, on their TV to protect you, if you're expecting, Ring or Amazon with Alexa or Google with their Google Home or on and on and on.
I mean,
they don't give a crap.
And you keep hearing about all the oopsies, or,
right.
The TV is spying on you because it checks what you're watching. It takes pixel or screenshots and,
right.
Sends out tones to devices. There's all kinds of weird things. And then there was an article I just saw the last couple of weeks about Alexa, and it was like, oh, shoot, I can't remember the number now. Maybe like 15 times a month or 3 times a day, something like that it accidentally turns on. It mishears and turns on and starts recording or starts listening.
Right. Well, nobody cares.
Yeah.
I mean, the only Alexa or Amazon only cares enough to keep your confidence to keep buying.
Yeah. They only care enough that it doesn't impact their bottom line.
As long as they can continue to come up with excuses on why this isn't that big a deal or however they decide to control the message.
Right.
It's like people are just like sheep, I mean, they just, I told you about my own daughter, and you've had this conversation too, right? We're at Target and my daughter's like, how come we don't get, Alexa? I'm like, oh, honey, I mean, come on.
Right.
She's, well, explain it to me. So I explained to her why. And once I explained it to her, she got it. She was like, okay, I understand.
Right.
And then I'm like, yeah, and tell all your friends too.
Yeah. It was kind of cool. My daughter, the older one, a couple of her friends got TikTok and were doing it, and she asked me about it. And so I said, well, here's why. And she actually did some research and sent me some articles and showed me a text where she just put them in their place a little bit, not in a mean way. Right. But well, here's what, cause they're kind of giving her crap about it. And she's like, well, here's why.
Yep.
Here's it. It does these things. It does this. It does this. And these are the reports. And
then
you just had, who came out against TikTok last week and said it was parasitic or whatever?
Oh, I don't know. Probably the DOD.
No, it was a private company. Was it? I don't know. It might have been Facebook or somebody came out and said, I'll never use it. It was a C-level somewhere at a big company.
Yeah, I've never used it either.
But, those types of things, though, I was so proud of her. I was like, great job. You handled it well, educated, make a good, backed up by facts and, legitimate sources.
It seems like too much of the population nowadays has lost the ability to think critically, lost the ability to reason through some of these things. You just go out to Target and you go buy something, or you go to Best Buy and you just buy something, you plug it in, it works. Oh, look at this cool thing. Now I don't have to get up and change the channel. I don't have to do all these things without really thinking through all the consequences for that. Yeah. Every time you give up a convenience, it's another way that security works.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when I'm giving up a convenience, I'm creating a risk somewhere.
Yep. And I just looked it up. It was Reddit CEO and co-founder, Steve Huffman. He said it was fundamentally parasitic due to privacy concerns.
Well, so is the internet.
Right. But
so is Reddit.
I mean,
right.
True.
All right. So
but it's not often you get a big company in a C-level calling out another company like that.
Right. All right. So roles, parent. What's a parent's role?
Honestly, I would say it's similar to the executive and CISO kind of combined, right? You have to overall understand what's going on. Tell everyone what their responsibilities are, what's the expectations, and then kind of taking some of that CISO role and saying, and here's what we're going to do to protect ourselves.
Sure. Yeah, I think everything that happens under my roof is my responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So everybody who comes, everybody who goes, the rules of the house, that's kind of my responsibility. So it's my responsibility to understand risk, right? Just like you're saying, at work, it's the CEO's job. At home, I'm the CEO.
Right.
Or me and my wife.
Well, but I think even then you still have, whoever it is, one person typically would be making that final call with the input of the other. Right?
Well, sure.
Like, it's not neither or, but it's still, if you have, it's the same thing. If you have everybody with something, then nobody has it. Mm-hmm. So, ultimately I think one person should,
Sure.
take that and then work with the other, regardless of who it is.
So as a parent, you and I are security people.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not normal people.
No.
So normal people, a normal parent, what should they do?
Easy, high level, check your firewall or your cable modem, whatever, change any default settings. But then for your kids, set limitations, right? No devices in the bedroom, or no devices after a certain period of time, after whatever, 8 o'clock, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're probably not going to be super popular, but that's not your job. Your job is to protect your kids.
Right. When we created this S2Me assessment, and version 1 is out. So for anybody listening, you can go to https://s2me.io.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an information security risk assessment for people.
Yeah. It's not painful.
No.
15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour if you're reading a lot of the recommendations and
it's time well spent.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
oh yeah.
Is 30 minutes a good spend of time to learn the basics of protecting your children?
Well, the common theme that I've heard is I never even thought about some of this stuff.
Right.
It just never even occurred to me. And 30 minutes to realize what's going on.
Excuse me. I got coronavirus maybe.
Yeah, great.
No, probably not. I don't know.
As we're in a closed room.
Well, and that's funny. So not funny. Middle of the week last week, San Francisco declares a state of emergency in the middle of the conference. I'm like, does that mean we have to leave?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what it meant, but we all stayed. So the S2Me, we created that assessment for a couple of reasons. One is this is an underserved part of our market, right? At home. Yeah. People, it's sad. It's super sad to see people just keep plugging stuff in.
Yeah.
You know, not even realizing that maybe their computers are part of a botnet and they don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're doing crypto mining and they don't even know it. You know, they've been crypto jacked and
their bank account gets drained.
Right. And they don't even know it. Or their kids are being preyed upon and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that, you know, maybe their, Wi-Fi camera is putting images out on the internet and they don't even know it. You know, I mean, it's just crazy. So we created the S2Me to address that. And what's happened since, that's version 1 of that assessment. We've got 2 PhD classes right now that are reviewing it and doing papers on it. Yeah, it's now become part of a study. And we're also creating version 2, right, which will be gamified and be mobile app friendly and
nice.
All that stuff. Because we're trying to reach parents, to reach parents and spouse, whatever, so that they start thinking of security in all of this.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also important to go the other direction. Our parents, right? You say we're digital immigrants. I don't know what the
digital foreigners.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the next one is. I mean, right. This is something that really is foreign that they're trying to keep up with. And so, you have a responsibility the other way as well.
So a parent's role, would you agree that a parent's role is to lead their home? The responsibilities with respect to information security are, 1, to learn what is this? And what should I be doing? Because every home is a little bit different, but there are some basics, some fundamentals that every home should be doing. And then I would say as a parent, go take the S2Me. Go do your first information security risk assessment because it is an eye-opening experience. You'll be like, oh, I didn't think of that. But at least at that point, and just because you have risks doesn't mean you need to mitigate them all, but at least now you know them so you can make your decisions with some education. To just sit there and just put your hands up and be ignorant about it and say,
it's overwhelming.
I can't figger it out. Yeah. I'm not a techie, whatever. All that's BS.
Right. Well,
it's your home. You need to secure it. And if you know what I mean, the consequences are your children are being preyed upon.
Well, and I mean, it goes to kind of similar, they say ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Or, if you have HIPAA data as a company and you are, negligent, that's not an excuse. You can't say, I didn't know. That doesn't get you off the hook. And the same thing happens like at home with this.
Well, except for it's worse at home, because at least at work, if you lose my social security number, it might be a pain in the ass, but I can recover from that? I can't recover from my child being
right. Right.
Some of those things they see online. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up, my father kept his Playboy magazines on the top shelf of his closet. It was Playboy.
Right.
Right. Playboy is, you see Playboy now in like Newsweek.
Yeah. On cable.
Right. And now, the things that kids are seeing online, and the number one consumer of pornography online is 12-year-old boys.
That's insane.
Right. So as a parent, if you're not educating yourself, if you're not setting appropriate rules, if you're not leading your family here, I got to question how good of a parent you actually are, right? Because, and I can understand that you never heard this before. Great. So
go do something now.
You didn't know, right? But if you're listening to this podcast, you've now heard it.
Right. So you don't have that excuse anymore.
Yeah. So get off your whatever.
Yeah.
Go to stme.io or go someplace.
What's the problem? Where else are they going to go? Realistically, I have not seen anything really good, right? There's some resources that are out there. That are good, but not in a quiz. It's all just, it's out there. There's nothing consolidated that's, easy to digest and really does cover the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's another failure from a security perspective.
I agree. And when you take and that's another thing that I preached a lot in RSA was we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. Your crappy security affects my family too.
Right.
Or your good security. Because if you're part of a botnet and you're DDoSing all kinds of whatever, I'm part of that, right? You're hitting me as well. Or, pivots, all kinds of things. So yeah, as a parent, if I were to give you one piece of advice, I'd say go do your S2Me now. And then if you like it, great. Tell others about it. If you don't like it, tell us what you don't like about it. And then have your spouse do it too.
Yeah.
Because now you can have a discussion, and maybe your spouse doesn't know how to answer any of the questions. Great. What a great education opportunity for the both of you.
That's a really good point.
So just because you're going through the assessments, like, I don't even know what you're asking, Google it. Mm-hmm. I mean, people, I'm one of those people that can remember life before Google.
Yeah.
When it was a valid excuse, like, I don't know what this is, what I'd have to do is go to the library. But now it's like, okay, just open up another browser window and Google it.
Well, and I think you guys did a really good job with some of the like explanations and things too, right? So it's not like, hey, here's this really weird thing that I've never thought about, Bluetooth. Well, it just connects my phone to my car. What else can it do? Well, there's an explanation. There's a paragraph in there explaining what the risk is and why it's a risk. And then, paragraph or more.
Right.
Here are recommendations.
Right. Exactly. And so how much does the S2Me cost?
It's 30 minutes of your time.
Yeah. It's free.
Yeah.
It will always be free as a consumer tool. And we want to hear what people think about it, because if a parent takes it, and then, their spouse, in some houses, there are no spouses. I get that. But
right.
I'm just saying, in a nuclear type family, you've got your parent who takes it, the spouse takes it. Now you're having a discussion about information security at the dinner table that you probably never had before. Mm-hmm. Or your wife is asking you, or your husband is asking you, what's this Wi-Fi thing?
Yeah.
It just elevates the education level. It seems like people don't like to learn.
Well, I mean,
nearly as much as they used to.
My wife took it, and it was like there was a whole bunch of questions,
right?
And it was just things that I kind of took for granted or assumed, because I do talk about the work. I mean, it's the nature of it. We've been doing it as long as you and I have. It invariably leaks out, but even then, there were things she was like, "Whoa, wait, what?"
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, let's talk about it.
Exactly. Yep. And then the role of children. In your opinion, what's the role of a child at home?
They need to understand the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, anything that you put online is online. There is no going back from it.
Right.
You got to think pretty long and hard about what you do. Things like creating usernames that don't give away your. I can't even tell you how many times like my daughters play the games and they make up, in my opinion, hilarious names. They just find like 2 complete like non sequiturs that are 2 or 3, whatever it is, and just come up with random funny names.
Mm-hmm.
But then they'll be like, hey, look, it's Evan 726.
Right.
Oh, gosh, I wonder when.
Right.
Or whatever it is. But yeah, understanding that what information are you giving away? What information are you putting out there?
Yeah.
And then it comes back to the parents, even taking pictures on your phone.
Right.
Turn off geotagging.
Right.
Be careful what you put in the background. Like understanding those types of things. And then once they understand them, being, actually cognizant of it.
Right. Well, and I agree with all that. I think children also, so much of it comes down to communication, in the home.
Yeah.
Right. So children, you may not understand why mom or dad are telling you to do things or not do things with your computer. They may not even know. But I do know that in almost every case, what a parent is telling their child to do or not do with information security is out of love.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
I'm not telling my daughter
intentions.
that, she cannot go to bed with her phone. I'm not telling you that because I'm a mean dad.
Right.
I'm telling you that because out of everybody else in this whole planet, nobody loves her more than I do.
Yeah.
Nobody will do, as much as I will do to protect her.
Well,
but having those discussions with kids, you have to have those discussions with kids.
Oh yeah. Well, but that was a condition for both my daughters. They got a phone into middle school,
right.
Just because after school and a little bit further away from the house and just, everything that's going on, we said, all right, that's something we're willing to do. But one of the top conditions is if I find a phone in their room, they lose it.
Right.
That's it. And I never once had an issue.
Right. Yeah. And I've had that talk with my daughter as well about, the reason why I have these rules is because I love you.
Yeah. I'm looking
honestly.
out. I'm trying to, I want what's best for you.
I know that some of your kids, some of your friends are doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. It's not that their parents don't love them as much as I love you. I don't run their house.
Yeah.
I run this house.
They have a different set of risks.
Back to what my role is here. I'm the CEO of this home, right?
Right.
We don't run our home like everybody else's home.
Right.
So children, my daughters, because I only have one now at home. The other 5 or 4 are gone. Not gone, but out of the house. They all survived so far. But her job is to play by my rules.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're 18 and you move out, do what you want. I'm instilling as many,
hopefully
good things into you as I can. And then the second thing is communicate with me.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on. Tell me if you're upset about something. Tell me if you saw something online that made you feel uncomfortable.
Well, like I said with my daughter and, with the TikTok, and she came and asked, I'll never get mad at them for wanting to understand more. Hey, I want to do this. No, not. And then it's not, and I try very hard to say no. And here's why.
Right.
This communication piece, but occasionally, I'm like, it's on a text message or whatever. And I'm like, nope, no, can't do that. And you can't really explain it over. And then he'll come back with, I can actually hear the eye roll and the sigh in their response of, fine, can we talk later? Right. Cause they want to know that, but yeah, it's fun to hear that and see them go do it. Online is the same as everywhere else, right? You try to give them the best tools to be successful, but at the end of the day, you do have to trust your kids to some extent to do the right thing. You just got to hope you taught them the right thing.
Yeah. Honestly, I check my daughter's phone very, very rarely.
Yeah.
because there's a level of trust there, right?
Don't give me a reason to need to.
Well, she's 15 years old, right? I mean, now you're maturing, right? I don't treat you like an 8-year-old anymore.
Right.
You've got you know what's right and what's wrong.
Well, I mean, and as long as mine keep coming with those types of things to me and
right,
kind of proving that there are questioning this stuff and thinking about it, why would I?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So there's our roles and responsibilities for parents, spouses, children. The biggest piece of advice is don't be ignorant. Learn, communicate, all those things. Those are just good family dynamics in general. But what should every normal person know about information security? If you had one thing to tell a normal person.
Man.
It stumped you.
There's just so many things. You know what? I think it's not as scary as you might think it is.
Right.
And there are people out there that really do want to help. Don't be afraid to ask for questions.
Right.
Or ask your questions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think every normal person should know where to find answers. Mm-hmm. Find somebody who's trusted, that will give you good information security advice. And if you don't understand it, learn. Mm-hmm. Just everybody needs to elevate their game, I think, at home with respect to information security in terms of what they know. Normal people.
I mean, it does kind of give you the ability to take back a little bit of control, right? You get a lot of the breach fatigue and what can I do? Well, here's something you can do.
Right. And certainly don't assume that anybody's got your best interests in heart, because they don't.
What?
No, they don't. So if you're expecting Amazon to really care all that much about your privacy, you've been duped.
Yeah.
All right. So the importance of definition, formality, communication, at home, I think it's defining it. Maybe you don't need to document it, but maybe you do need to go through that exercise. I don't know. However you work at home, whatever the dynamic is at home. Mm-hmm. But in terms of definition of roles and responsibilities, those are, in my house, they're pretty well understood. Who the boss is.
Mm-hmm. And if it's like my house, we say it's us, but we know it's not really.
What do you mean?
It's the wife.
Oh, right. No. When it comes to information security and safety.
Correct.
I definitely take the lead from my wife and that kind of stuff. She takes the lead in like money stuff.
Well, making sure that the house actually functions.
Yeah.
But
in terms of safety.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
And then communication, it's really sad to see, you saw it happen at RSA too. One of the things I was going to write something about is just the lack of situational awareness. Everybody had their head buried in their phones all the damn time. That's not the way to communicate. I'm sorry. We're built as social creatures. Put the damn phones away. Put the damn devices away. Spend some time across the dinner table. Do people still eat dinner together?
I mean, we eat dinner together. It's not always at the table.
Sure. But you have this communication, I assume. I remember growing up how important it was to communicate regularly, face to face with my parents.
Oh, yeah.
And so, gosh, put away the phone. We have a rule that I sort of backed off on, but it was, I built a box right outside the door at home. And on Saturdays, the phone goes in that box. And when you're in the house on the Saturday, you cannot use your phone. If you want to use your phone, go outside. But it's, middle of winter.
Yeah. It's going to be warm this week.
I haven't followed that rule for a while.
And I think that going back to the communication, I mean, that really is, the key to everything.
Right. My daughter will text me sometimes from her room, which is 2 rooms from mine. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Usually, I think
you can get off your rear end and come and talk to me face to face. It was nice last night. She got home kind of late and actually came into my room and said, good night, Dad. Love you. And I was like,
awesome.
Hey, face to face. How about that?
Yeah, we try to spend time every weekend, either, even if it is playing like Mario Party or Mario Kart or something where we're doing it as a family or playing board games, things like that. Yeah, that communication and building that trust and understanding really goes a long way. And
Absolutely.
And that translates to work too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're social creatures. We're built for that face-to-face interaction. We're built for real, true relationships with each other. And I've read stories that, I read one story that said that the suicide rate in teenage girls has doubled since the advent of the smartphone because they're not spending, one of the reasons is they're not spending as much time face-to-face as they used to.
Well, and like we've talked about, you can never get away from the bullying.
True.
There's no break.
All right. So there you go. Lots of roles and responsibilities for home. Yeah. And we'd love to hear from you. I mean, if there's something else you'd like us to touch on with that, let us know. But there is a tool that you can go use today. It's called S2Me. Just go to s2me.io. Take that assessment. Let us know what you think. Version 2 is coming out mid-April, where we'll have gamification and mobile app capabilities. So that should be fun. All right. Great conversation. These things will also be covered in our book, Brad.
Yes. Which,
I'm still doing my little thing. I haven't even shared anything with you yet, but it's coming. Trust me. Because it'll help a lot of people. All right. Let's get to some news. Here's what I've got. I've got 3 news stories this week. The first one is from Security Affairs. Allegedly, the Russian spies are attempting to tap transatlantic undersea cables. And you know that this is actually something that isn't new. I heard about this a couple of years ago.
Those are pretty difficult to secure. The plus is they're also really difficult to get to.
Right. So on Security Affairs, the website, they've a pretty cool map of where these transatlantic cables are. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yes, they do take a big ship with a big cable.
It's got
and a big spool, and they lay it down on the bottom, and then they just continue to splice it till it gets all the way across.
Yeah, if you look it up, there's some videos and pictures of these giant spools, and they're huge, and then they have to put, it's really cool. Because they put, have to put barriers on it at certain depths to protect it from sea life and all this stuff.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
So the Russians are trying to tap these things. I don't know how surprised I am, and I don't know what,
I'm sure they're not the only ones.
Normal people can really do about it. They're definitely not the only ones who are doing it. But I don't even know why they need to tap those.
Well, if you tap that, you've got unfettered.
Yeah, I suppose. But there are other places you could
or
get that data as well.
Well, yeah.
Without having to go to the ocean bottom and
but harder to find.
I guess
they only pull those up if there's a problem.
Maybe spies just like to be spies.
There's that.
All right. So the Russians are meddling again. Surprised?
Oh, yeah. No.
Right. What else do we have for the news? We have a new Crook vulnerability. This was announced at RSA at a talk. Essentially, it lets attackers decrypt all Wi-Fi packets. Devices using Broadcom and Cypress Wi-Fi chips. This is on ZDNet. And the title is New Crook Vulnerability, KR00K. Vulnerability lets attackers decrypt Wi-Fi packets. Did you see this?
I hadn't seen that. It's, what are you going to do?
Right.
Yay.
Right.
Add that to Emotet transmitting over Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine this causing a problem.
So ESET gave this talk at RSA where they, went over how it works, how the attack works, and how they found it, and all that good stuff. The bug can be exploited by an attacker to intercept and decrypt some Wi-Fi network traffic, even that's encrypted with WPA2. All Wi-Fi capable devices running Broadcom and Cypress Wi-Fi chips. Those happen to be the two two of the world's most popular Wi-Fi chipsets. So chances are probably pretty good that your Wi-Fi router is vulnerable. So
like you can protect yourself using the new WPA3, because how many devices support that? How many legacy devices are out there?
Right. Well, and this is so new that I think most people, haven't done anything yet. But there will be a patch, I assume, or a flash, something. So, be on the lookout to either patch or replace, or turn on WPA3 if you can. At home, I'm not sure how big a deal this really is at home, because I can't imagine that your risk would be that high, because attackers don't really care.
They're not driving around neighborhoods.
Probably not. So nothing to freak out about, but certainly something to keep an eye on. And, depending on where you're using Wi-Fi, hopefully you're not ever using Wi-Fi in highly sensitive traffic anyway, right? It's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, patch stuff. Also, last news thing is from news article. It's from GB Hackers on security. The title is Google released a patch for Chrome 0-day vulnerability that actively exploited in wide. Did you see the article?
Yeah.
Title? In the wild. All right. So 3 high security vulnerabilities, including a 0-day bug that is being exploited in the wild. If you're using Google Chrome, just patch.
Yeah. I do have one for you. I don't know if you saw it or not, but Microsoft just released a patch for all versions of its on-prem Exchange server. So CVE 2020-0688 is a remote code execution on all Exchange servers. Mm-hmm. So they do have a patch out there, but it affects the Exchange control panel component and allows for basically everything. And the risk there is, where are all your credentials verified and cached?
Right.
So if you have on-prem Exchange, go patch it now.
Or stop running on-prem Exchange.
Well, I mean, that's a different set of risk you have to accept, right?
True. All right. Well, there you have it. That's episode 69. It's good to be home this week. Thank you to our listeners. We love hearing from you. If you've got something to say, email us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you'd rather do the whole social thing, we do tweet sometimes. I'm at Evan Francine and Brad's at Brad Nye. Check out Security Studio on Twitter also, and FRSecure. They're usually tweeting something sort of, marketing people. They try to be funny sometimes, but whatever. And lots of other good things happening. Anything you want to wrap up with, Brad?
No, welcome back.
All right. Thanks, man. Talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's unsecurity@protonmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.